Alrighty, so let's say you have your footage in Premiere, you have your first clip over here, and then you have your next clip, and you have maybe a gap where you want it to be slow motion. So this is where you would use one of my favorite tools. You press the letter R. It's called the Rate Stretch tool. So you can find it over here. And you would just grab the end of your footage and drag it to the speed that you want. Let's say I want it to be that slow motion, just a little bit. Now you'll notice that it does this like jumpy, like it's just spreading the frames out. It's not actually creating more frames in slow motion. So what you want to do is right click the clip that you just made slow motion, and then you're going to go to time interpolation and do either frame blending or optical flow. Optical flow looks the best, but frame blending is usually the best for like speeding things up or doing zooms. This is what frame blending looks like. It just really blends the frames together. It's not really the best. It's more for adding motion blur. And then you have optical flow. Let me render this out so you can watch it in real time. Feel free to skip ahead to this from this section until it's done. With optical flow, this is definitely something you want to consider. The render times will increase because it's pretty much making video that wasn't there before. Alright, now that that's done rendering, you can go over here and see what it looks like. And you'll see that it blends it together. It has all the frames there. It looks slow motion, nice and smooth. Now you'll notice around her hands though, the only problem is I recorded this at 24 frames a second, and it's probably playing back now at like, we shot it at like 30 or 40, and you'll start to notice that the blur in her hands and everything, the way that she moves, it starts to blur out and like do this weird mushrooming, like almost mashed potatoes to the video kind of look. And that's because the interpolation, it's doing its best to make new frames with what it has, and the less that it has, the worse it's going to be. So you can see right there her leg kind of like just turns into a piece of mashed potato. But to the naked eye, somebody that's watching this for maybe the 10 seconds that it's on screen or whatever, it should be perfectly fine. And then it just transitions into your next clip. Now the awesome thing about it is with the rate stretch tool, you can stretch it to fit any amount of footage. So let's say I wanted this to be longer. All I have to do is just drag this down and then press R for the rate stretch tool, grab the end and move over. It will be slower motion now, but I can pretty much extend this clip indefinitely. And then I use the optical flow, and that'll help me add more frames. Now just be aware that the longer you make this, the more jittery and weird it's going to look, because you're pretty much adding more frames in between. Whereas before, with this little clip, you were only adding maybe 5 frames in between each other. Now you're probably adding 10 or 12, and the computer has to think more, and more can go wrong. So just be aware that with the rate stretch tool, or any time interpolation, especially with optical flow, the longer the clip that you stretch it out to be, the more problems you may occur.